Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And I definitely want to hear what you have to say about today's topic. And today's topic is with the Senior Bowl practices going. If you've been watching those practices, guys who pop out to you. But let's remember that a team's needs right now will change, could change dramatically by the time the draft rolls around. And that's because before there's the NFL draft, there is free agency. And I think what teams like to do is go into the draft without any glaring needs. They'd like to have theoretically NFL players, starting players at every position so that they're not in a spot where when the draft rolls around, they're in this sense of desperation where, they have to draft a starting offensive lineman. They have to draft a starting safety or cornerback or anything like that. And then they really can just kind of check off the needs, not needs, but like get the best player available with always kind of a lean or a bent toward positions where there will be a need a year from now. I know that's what the 49ers have tried to do in their drafts is to project ahead a year to figure out when they might need a starting caliber player. And I do think you saw that last year with the 49ers, with maybe some uncertainty at wide receiver. They take Ricky Pearsall in the first round with the likelihood that Charvarius Ward will be moving on. They take Renardo Green in the second round with the likelihood that this year Aaron Banks will be moving on. They took Dominic Pooney in the third round. That one worked out particularly well because, oh, and also Malik Mustafa, a safety, with the idea that Talanoa Hufanga was scheduled to be a free agency. So some of those picks worked out very well in that they got more contributions from them as rookies as maybe they even expected. So 49ers would like to obviously check the boxes in free agency. We'll see what happens with Dre Greenlaw, see what happens with Hufanga as far as their ability to re-sign them. Do I expect the 49ers to be a big player in free agency? I do not, but I didn't expect them to be a big player and make a huge splash like they did 2 years ago. They did spend a lot of money and they made the investment in Javon Hargrave. And, we can all sit back and talk about whether that one worked or not. Obviously, being relegated to only 3 games last season with the torn triceps, that didn't work out well for the 49ers. But he was, a good player in their Super Bowl year. And the 49ers did devote a lot of money to him. Of course, they've restructured his deal in order to grease the skids for a post June 1 release. So he'll be on the free agent market. 49ers have let him know that he will be cut or released, and they would like an opportunity to be in the mix to re-sign him. So let's just start there. And I'm going to tell you who the one guy, if the 49ers were to splurge this season or this offseason in free agency, I'm going to tell you who that one guy is. And even before we get to that, you can, as you're watching this, you can leave a comment to predict who I'm going to say. But as I look at the 49ers defensive line, they do have some guys. They do have some players there where I don't know that they need to go out and make, a Javon Hargrave kind of splash in free agency. I would fully expect them to pick up kind of a bargain free agent or someone maybe on that second tier because last year they entered the season with 9 defensive linemen. And right now, the guys they have under contract, Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Yetur Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott, Kalia Davis, Robert Beal, they basically also already have under contract as exclusive rights free agents, easy to re-sign or get under contract, Sam Okawanu and Evan Anderson. So that's 9 guys right there. There's also the possibility that Drake Jackson could return to the team for the final year of his contract if he can just get that whole knee situation corrected. And as a commenter pointed out to me yesterday, when the 49ers drafted Drake Jackson, they were very high on him. And I remember even Nick Bosa talking about the bend that he has around the corner and that he wishes he had that kind of flexibility. And Kyle Shanahan said that Drake Jackson had the most impressive game film of any edge rusher in that draft. However, obviously the 49ers haven't seen much of that because of the injuries. He had the one game, the first game of the season in 2023 where he had the three sacks. Shanahan also pointed out that there were other reasons why he lasted until the second round where the 49ers took him. I think pretty clearly that was just the strength issue. But as far as the film from his final year at USC, the 49ers thought that the film spoke about the talent that he had, and it was a big priority for the 49ers to get him stronger and develop him. So that's if you start there with those players that I just mentioned, and then you add two players in the draft, you can see that the 49ers could feel pretty good about that. One thing I'd like to point out, which kind of surprised me, the 49ers averaged rushing this season 4.7 yards per carry. And, they were seen as, I think, a good running team, not a great running team, but they were seen as a very poor run defense. Yet they gave up 4.4 yards a carry in the run defense. So they were actually a better run defense team. Let me see if I can get this right. They were actually better run defense than you would think because I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I'm basically saying 4.7 yards for their offense running, 4.4 yards than their running defense. I guess what I'm saying is they were a better running offensive team than their defense was a bad run defense team. I don't know if that made any sense, but okay, let's cut to the chase. If the 49ers were to splurge on one guy in free agency to go get somebody from outside the team, here's the answer. And it's somebody with Bay Area ties. It's somebody with ties to the 49ers. The name to keep in mind is Drew Dalman. 6'3" center, 305 pounds, played his first 4 years with the Falcons and is very good in that outside zone scheme. So if the Falcons don't franchise him, and yes, he's going to get a lot of money probably on the open market, he might reset that market. Creed Humphrey from the Chiefs set the market with $18 million per year average. So that's what the number you're looking at for Drew Dalman. But one of the things to keep in mind too is if you try to address that position in the draft, it's going to be very difficult because even Dahlman, who's now a very good center in the NFL, he didn't start at all his rookie season. Center is a very difficult position to find an immediate starter at coming from the college ranks. Now, there are some guys that the 49ers can certainly draft and develop, but I don't know that any of those guys would be ready week one. Jake Brendel is the guy the 49ers are going to, they want to see more, I'm sure, out of that center position. And so my idea would be if you splurge in free agency, if you go out and you pay big money for any player, you name the position, I would go with Drew Dalman. He's proven, this was a guy who entered the league as a fourth round pick, number 114 overall. So that kind of speaks to that ability for a team to go out and get a center in the middle of the draft or an interior lineman in the middle of the draft, but you still need time to develop. But Drew Dalman, he's already developed. And the reason I said he has Bay Area ties or he has 49ers ties, his father, Chris Dalman, well, no, he didn't coach for the 49ers, but he has been a coach in the NFL. He and Stanford, both those guys went to Stanford, but Dahlman played for the 49ers for several years, was a starter at center in the early years when I was covering the team. So Chris Dalman, his dad, has that Bay Area connection, the 49ers connection, and all that. So That's my guess, or not my guess, but my projection, my recommendation that if the 49ers were to go out and spend big money on one player that's free agent, and again, no guarantee that he'll even be available. The Falcons have sole negotiating rights. They're going to try to re-sign him, I'm sure. And then also the possibility that they could franchise him if they don't sign him to the long-term extension. So when it comes to free agency, I again don't expect the 49ers to be big players out there. I know some people suggested, what about DJ Jones? Bringing him back, that's a possibility. Obviously, I would think that his contract this year would be less than what the Broncos paid on that 3-year deal to get him to go there. He's getting up there in age a little bit, but the 49ers have their own free agents. I was checking out the PFF rankings as far as projected free agents and where they rank. And these are the four 49ers that were listed in the top 100. A little bit surprised, I think, that the top three guys were listed as high as they were, but PFF had Charvarius Ward ranked 13th of all NFL scheduled unrestricted free agents. Dre Greenlaw ranked 18th. Talanoa Hufanga ranked 23rd, and then Aaron Banks at 73. I don't think Charvarius Ward will be back as the 49ers have Renardo Green and Diamador Lenore kind of locked into starting spots. Dre Greenlaw, I think that's a priority for the 49ers to re-sign. We'll see how that turns out. Talanoa Hufanga, I think, is a priority for the 49ers to re-sign. Although, they do have Jair Brown, who maybe slipped a little year two, and Malik Mustafa. I think the 49ers can also go out and use free agency to get somebody like Ashton Davis from the Jets. And to me, that's a really good pickup. Former Cal player who also played a lot of special teams with the Jets. So it'd be more for a backup role, but a backup role who plays a lot and also somebody who can help out on special teams. With Brant Boyer coming in as a special teams coordinator, I think that's important to get somebody who's been in that system. So Hufanga, somebody 49ers will be interested in re-signing, certainly. And then Aaron Banks. I don't think that he'll be coming back to the 49ers. I do think that he'll get a big contract or a larger contract with some other team. And then it's a matter of kind of seeing what the 49ers bring back with their offensive line. They do have some depth there, some guys that they could fit into different spots. But I think when you look at the draft, and again, the draft takes place, 6 weeks after free agency, the 49ers can, with 7 picks in the first 4 rounds, they can check off some boxes there. They can get 2 defensive linemen. They can get in guys that can fit that rotation, bring in more depth, and maybe a player or two who are on the team this past season can't make the team because they can't fit into that rotation. Also think offensive line, an interior offensive lineman, an outside, a tackle. And so the 49ers do have some ability to really strengthen their roster through the draft, but it all starts with the ability to identify a free agent or 2 or 3 or 4. Actually, they'll end up signing quite a few free agents, probably more in that second wave of free agency where they're going to focus on special teams. But again, if they're going to go with one guy where they spend some money, I've identified Drew Dalman as being that guy. I want to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll be back at you very soon with another video. And that is it for now.